in our clubhouse getting high. Super fuckers. Everybody wishes we would die. Super fuckers. Here we come like a bomb. Everybody fucking run and hide.
Hey, it's the Pizza Party Podcast. I'm Pan Pizza. Who are you people?
I'm doing homework.
I'm working on your mama.
And we have a special guest today. Who is this person?
Oh, it's Mike Mozart, the toy reviewer and I guess crazy artist over the past 3 decades. Probably mostly known for my YouTube channels, Jeepers Media and the Toy Channel. And I'm actually quite well known now on Instagram as Mike Mozart, doing big wall art, mostly of Uncle Scrooge, McDuck from DuckTales, and Mr. Monopoly and Richie Rich. And I'm sort of going back to what I was doing 35 years ago. I was one of the biggest commercial artists at that time period of character art.
So real quick, I'm sorry, he mentioned Scrooge McDuck, so I really want to ask, are you excited about the reboot for the DuckTales cartoon?
Yes, and I've mentioned it many times on my social media, and people are saying, oh, they're going to ruin it, oh, they're changing it, oh, they're modernizing it, and it's not as good. I think that it's clever. I think it's a great show, and it's very interesting. You know, you have to refreshen things, you know, or they just don't look good. I mean, you can fill a garden full of flowers. You keep watering it and tending it. But, you know, over time, it just doesn't look as beautiful as it once did. It's good to pull everything out and start all over again. And that's what Disney did. I kind of like what they did.
You just got to start over and start fresh and for a new generation, but something an older audience can still enjoy.
Yeah, and people say, oh, they're going to homogenize it. They're going to make it too politically correct now. Well, I don't know. I think what they're doing right now is very clever, and they're really pushing the limits in some of the jokes that I've seen published already. I think it's pretty nice.
Yeah. But for anyone who hasn't seen your videos or your art, who were you as the average YouTuber? Like, because this is how a lot of us knew you first. Like, how were you on YouTube in like 2007 or 8? What did you do?
Well, I actually started on YouTube in 2005 when it was in their beta test system.
Oh. And
when I first signed in, I started making reviews on, not really, actually at that point, I hadn't made any reviews yet. I was doing videos on how to design and create toys, because at the time I was a very popular toy designer, and also how to do artwork. Now, most of those original videos I first put up, I made private, because I discovered that people liked my toy reviews much better than my how to draw videos and how to create toy videos. So I took down everything that didn't fit the exact theme that everyone seemed to love, which was toy reviews. And my most famous toy reviews early on were called Fail Toys on a channel called Jeepers Media. They're still there. There's about 700 of them. And I was reviewing the worst toys in history, and that became my shtick. That became my claim to fame on YouTube in 2007, 2008,
yeah,
2009.
I think one of the first ones I saw was, I think it was called Rip Roaring Tarzan, and it was just this inappropriate Tarzan toy.
Yes.
I love that video so much.
Yeah, well, that toy, it's called Rad Repeatin' Tarzan.
Ah, yes.
And it was a clever toy. You push a button in the middle of his back, and its arm would go up and down in a karate chop action. And it was intended that he holds a knife in his hand when you're doing the action. When he's in the Try Me package, he has no knife. So when you hit that button on his back, his hand has 2 possible positions. One, it makes it look like he's entertaining himself in a way. Yeah. And the other way looks like he's giving a Nazi salute.
Oh, God.
I never mentioned that in the video. In the toy review video, I never mentioned that. That's what got it pulled off the shelves, was that aspect of the toy.
Yeah.
That was the controversy.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of it was kind of funny, too.
Yeah.
And then when he's doing the action where if you just twist his hand so it looks like it's at his crotch, when you push the button on his back, he goes, like that.
Yeah, I get like that sometimes. But also you can swear on this, so it's okay if you have the need to swear. Oh, yeah, you can say whatever you want on here.
Okay, well, I have to say that Rad Repeatin' Tarzan, another very unfortunate feature about that toy was it was Rad Repeating Tarzan. It was intended that kids could record whatever they wanted Tarzan to say.
Oh, my God.
And it was a try me in the package in the store. So, of course, you know, all the typical 13-year-old kids with bad things on their minds, or people like me, you'd go up to it and record, we're coming for you tonight when you fall asleep. The kids would touch the button in the store and hear things like that and freak out.
I'm sure that toy goes for a lot on eBay now, I believe.
I don't know. I bet they're up to probably $90 or $150 a piece in that range.
Dang.
But they weren't expensive, in 2008 when I probably did that video.
I'm sure a lot of people discovered it first through your video, since you were one of the first YouTubers. Like, there was not that much content on YouTube in like 2008.
No.
Not much.
There was, I'm sorry, but 2006, 2007 is the content-free time on YouTube.
Yeah.
What happened is 2005 is when high-speed internet first started coming into people's homes.
Mm-hmm.
Before that point is everyone had dial-up and it went beep, 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 beep. Remember that sign-in noise?
Oh, yeah. The AOL thing.
Yeah. Well, what happened is after 2005 is when it really first started getting into people's homes. But most people didn't get high-speed internet until about 2008. So there's this magical time in 2005, 2006, and early 2007 when I was there on YouTube when it was just born, and there was barely any content. There were only about 20 people really putting up a lot of original content that amounted to anything, and I was one of them. There were a lot of issues at the time that slowed people down. Is that if you didn't have quite a high-speed connection, it could take hours and hours to upload a 2-minute video.
Yeah.
And people don't realize it. They don't see what I went through at the time, because at the time I was actually creating television commercials.
Mm-hmm.
So I had professional editing equipment, and I had a higher speed connection than most people would have had. But even if I edited a 3-minute video at the time, it could take as long as 4 hours to render it to be suitable to upload.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people would say, well, I used to upload videos in 3 minutes then. Well, because they would do one take on, say, a small digital camera that was low resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And I edited everything at the time in 1080, even though YouTube couldn't take it. And I've been very tempted to re-upload a lot of those old videos.
You should.
Yeah,
In
definitely.
1080.
I mean, the way you know about how YouTube works now is like it's not based on clicks anymore. It's based on minutes watched. So I think you should just upload these videos in like one long marathon session.
Well, it isn't even minutes watched. Now, I know a lot more about YouTube than a lot of people do.
Yeah.
When Google Plus came out, remember that failed system, Google Plus? It was supposed to be like the next Facebook, but became the next MySpace. I was very big on that system. I thought that could be something, and I really focused on it. Well, they had this thing in it called Google Plus Hangouts, where you could actually sit with like 8 or 10 people and talk to them all at once. Well, what happened with that is I followed everyone that worked at Google. So I would know when they went into a hangout together, and I would jump in to listen to them talk about, what they did. By being there and asking the right people the right questions, I found out that not only is it minutes watched, the most important aspect of getting your YouTube videos watched is something called audience retention. It's unfortunate a lot of my videos were copied. And what I mean by copied is people would download my videos because most of my videos don't have content ID.
Yeah.
They would upload it to a YouTube channel that's blind. That means it's just there just temporarily. And just long enough so they can see what the audience retention points are in my videos. They would refilm my videos with the same toys and say almost the exact same words and just choose the high audience retention points. I know this sounds very difficult to explain.
Oh, I get what you're saying. That's so
No, I do
messed
too.
up.
Yeah,
It's happening a lot. It happened a lot. And there are a lot of toy reviewers now that are basically toy review factories on YouTube that are turning out 40 or 50 toy reviews a day that are basically just spam.
Yeah.
Where they find what works as a high audience retention, and then they refilm it with 12 different sets of hands with slightly different words and slightly different layouts. So if somebody's searching Minnie Mouse's new Fun Play Kitchen, they're going to be the top 25 of 50 results.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to avoid it.
Because you just see like all those thumbnails with like bright neon colors and just says egg openings of something or blind bag openings.
Yeah, and you'll see that if you look that there are probably 40 different YouTube channels that are doing Kinder egg openings or blind bag openings. At least 40 different channels. Yeah. But if you look at the production quality, the backgrounds, the way the hands are laid out, the way the lighting is, it's obvious that all 40 channels are the same person. Okay? I
always had the conspiracy theory, like all these weird finger channels and all these other channels are like the same person on separate channels.
Pan, if after you say the conspiracy theory thing, can you edit in Mulder saying, Scully, you're not going to believe this?
It's like there's a bunch of toy channels on YouTube and they're all run by the same person.
But it isn't. But, you know, if you really think about it, what they're trying to do is earn income.
Yeah.
And you can't blame someone if they found a formula that works, they can make income from it. Of course, they're going to earn income with it.
Yeah.
And what it does is it's a drawback to original creators like myself that find it very difficult to be seen now. Now, I can be seen because I still have hundreds of thousands of followers. That's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very difficult now for new kids that want to review toys to come in because there's just too much competition from these big factory type review channels. It's really difficult for new people to be seen, which it may be a good thing. It may, so kids don't waste a lot of time really trying to become the best toy reviewer on YouTube right now, which would be very difficult. They may become the best toy reviewer on Dailymotion, or they will go on a different platform right now and get seen there. You know, there are lots of new opportunities on the internet. I think that YouTube as a fresh, hot new opportunity isn't what it was.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
But there's a lot of opportunities on Instagram and on Twitch and on other platforms. A lot of them don't have monetization, so people can get income immediately from their original content. But if you're an artist doing paintings, Instagram is a great resource to be on right now. I mean, a lot of people that collect art or are interested in buying art follow artists on Instagram. That's just the hot place to do it right now.
Yes, I watched your live stream and you talked about like hashtagging is important on Instagram.
Oh, absolutely. That's something that people don't do enough of. I believe I said that in one of my live streams. Someone said, why do you put so many hashtags? Well, because you need to be seen. And if you say, now my artwork I do on Instagram is pop art, usually with Uncle Scrooge McDuck, say for example. Mm-hmm. And I'll put hashtag Uncle Scrooge, hashtag Disney, hashtag pop art, hashtag modern art. You know, I would do a lot of hashtags because when you do a search on Instagram, it's by, I'm going to put in the search field, pop art, and it will bring up all of those things. Now, Instagram does not arrange the search results by the newest. They have a grid of 16 where they take the 16 most popular and put them at the top, and all the rest are in order that they were uploaded.
Yeah.
So you have a pretty good chance. You actually have a very good chance of being seen on Instagram, even if you're not one of the top people, because after you get past those top 16, which are separated at the top, all the rest, it's all an open field. Whoever uploaded that hashtag last will be number one in line.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of opportunity on Instagram to be seen, whereas on YouTube, it's almost impossible. If I started a new toy review channel with no followers, I mean, that would never show up in search results.
No.
The only way you could show up is by most recent. But these factory channels doing toy reviews, I call them factory channels because of just sheer quantity of what they're pumping out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say factory channels, let's say they're uploading between the 7 or 8 different factory channels, maybe 80 toy reviews a day, maybe more than that, maybe 120 a day. And you're going to get drowned out by them. They're experts at using hashtagging. You know, they know how to, really get their work seen as number one. Doesn't mean it's the best, but they're working YouTube system to have YouTube believe they're number one.
Yeah.
So I would say one of the really good channels that's left, and he's a really great guy, is Lucky Penny Shop.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing work probably about 7 years ago, right about the time I was sort of drifting away from YouTube. And he gives these long, folksy reviews that are very pleasant to listen to, and the kids like it. It's nice. It's not a factory production. It's a really nice way to review products.
Oh, yeah, because I stumbled on his videos recently a couple of days ago. Like, I was looking up, I was researching for some reason silly bands, and I eventually found his videos.
Now, they're pretty nice. I really like what he's done. Yeah. He's just he's not a professional video maker. He's just a really good, nice person. He's good-natured. Kids like him. Parents like him. He doesn't swear in his videos. It's all very even-paced. Mm-hmm. That really works in today's society in a lot of ways. Yeah. I think people got very sick of YouTube the way it was about 5 years ago or 8 years ago when everything was smash bang in your face. Hey, my God, go look at this. Look at this prick over here. Oh, my God. I'm sorry, I pulled the phone away from my face.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, don't forget, I used to do that at the end of all my videos, too. That does work, by the way.
Oh.
It does work tremendously. I've tested both manners of doing that. But by having all those ancient videos that have the last 15 or 20 seconds say that is actually a big detriment now because it lowers audience retention.
Yeah.
When people hit the point where I say that, they leave now. Because most of the people that are watching my videos already subscribed, for one.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that they've changed their rating systems about 15 times, where it was different star systems that they had when they first started, different thumbs up and down systems that they've had. So I'll say, don't give me 5 stars. They're right there, and I'll point in the screen, but there's no stars there anymore.
Nope.
People are like, what's he talking about stars?
Stars? What is this? To be fair, did anyone ever like give like a 4-star or a 2-star rating? Like it was always either 5 or 1.
I would say that because when you're a YouTube partner, you could see exactly how many stars there were at the time. And there was a distribution of stars. There were, I would say I got very few 1-star ratings. But I would say, of course, mostly 5 stars because I actually asked, please give me 5 stars. People are very nice. People want to be nice. People want to be helpful. People want to be kind. And if you ask them to do something for you, they'll do it. And of course you have to do it if you feel you appreciate the people doing it, which I always did. And if you felt you deserved it, which I always did because I put a lot of extra time into my videos, a lot of people didn't. But I would say I still got a lot of 3 stars and 4-star ratings. It happened quite a lot.
Yeah.
I miss the old system. The old system, I think, worked better than just plain thumbs up, thumbs down system.
But
I don't even know if they still have that system anymore. Do they still have thumbs up and thumbs down?
Thumbs up and thumbs down, that's all we get.
Okay.
But for YouTube, do you have any plans for your YouTube? Because you've been gone for such a long time.
Yeah, I really stopped posting a lot about 2 years ago. About between 3 and 2 years ago. It's when I started drifting into wanting to return to wall art.
Yeah.
When I was a child, way back in those misty years of 16, 17, 18 years old, that's at a time when I'd always been an artist, always knew I wanted to be an artist. And that's when I was going to New York City, getting my first artwork jobs, mostly doing Disney books. I was fortunate when I was young because I grew this huge bushy beard. There's not many kids at 15 that have a huge bushy beard. And so I'd go into New York City when I first got my learner's permit at 15. In Connecticut, you could drive when you were 15 if you had a learner's permit. You didn't even have to have anyone in your car. You just had to have the permit. So as soon as I turned 15, I got my permit. In whatever year that was, 78 or 79. And I was driving to the train station and going into New York City and actually getting children's book jobs at that age. And nobody knew I was 15. They thought I was like 24, 25 because of the way I looked. And at the time, I really wanted to do wall art. And I was pitching it to galleries where I wanted to do street art, like graffiti art, street art. And I was bringing my samples, and then they thought, no one's going to buy this. And you're a commercial artist. That ruins it. You can't do serious art. You can't do fine art. You do Disney art. And the galleries all rejected me at the time, but I really wanted to do it. So for the next decade, actually next 2 decades until the late 1990s, I was painting and drawing mostly children's books, toy product packaging design, mostly Disney products because Disney products were very popular at the time. Disney was going through a real renaissance at that time period. And things were going great until Toy Story got released in theaters. And I became instantly like Sheriff Woody. As soon as Sputnik went up, nobody wanted cowboy toys. They all wanted space toys. As soon as Toy Story launched in theaters, nobody wanted hand-drawn, old-timey looking art. They wanted fresh new computer artwork. So I got shelved in that type of a career. And it was just fortunate that I could transition at the time into doing a lot of toy products and games and other products that required more sculptural, more conceptual type ideas rather than just taking paint and putting on a piece of paper and it's Mickey Mouse holding a flower for an Easter product. And I did a lot of that type of work.
This is completely unrelated, but you said Woody, and you do. I know you so much for your toy reviews, so I immediately thought, What's your thoughts on Creepy Woody? Have you seen those pictures where like they have that Japanese toy where it comes with two faces?
Oh my God.
Oh.
Yeah, unfortunately, I hate to even add this part in. Yes, that is the RebelTaxi Woody. It's part of their line. It was never intended to be creepy like it was. I was an early adopter of that toy and an unfortunate early photographer of such things. Hate to admit it, some are on my Flickr, actually credited to me. But I've probably taken about 400 of them that I just posted and didn't get credit for, which I probably don't want credit for them now, so I won't point out the specific ones. But let's just say everyone at my office here had a grand time with that toy.
Oh.
And my collection of other anime toys at the time period.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of interns here when I was doing the video production. And I did continue my video production, pretty much up until 2014 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So there's quite a lot of. I'm walking around, by the way, as I'm talking to you.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to see some of my pictures of my RebelTaxi Woody, they are on flickr.com/jeepersmedia.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no E in the word Flickr. It's the old Yahoo photo sharing site. Yes, It still exists. And I have 70,000 Creative Commons pictures there. Actually, I actually have 250,000. I just haven't had time to make them public and write out what the descriptions are. But all of my pictures I've ever taken of Woody from that set are all Creative Commons. So that's why they've been shared so much.
Yeah, we'll include all your social media links in the description and the comments.
I don't know how far you want to keep going with that. Let's just say I introduced Sheriff Woody to my Sailor Moon collection.
Uh-oh.
The internet has never been the same since.
God damn.
Yes, that's why there's so many of those pictures.
Yeah.
And it wasn't me. I swear, most of those were not taken by me. They were taken by my interns.
Yeah.
How could you resist if you have all those toys there with Sheriff Woody?
This creepy Woody doll, like, you wouldn't want to do this. But do you plan on returning to YouTube now?
Yes. I'm coming back to YouTube because I believe I have something new to offer. I've been going through all my old files, and I have literally hundreds and hundreds of boxes of artwork from all the products and the games and the books I did over the years. And I think I can make my toy reviews a little more interesting by doing drawings or paintings that I show during the course of the videos. So if I'm reviewing a Barbie toy, well, look here, I just drew a little Barbie painting. Isn't this funny? And I'll try to do something that really matches the story, matches the review. Because most of the toy reviewers that are doing toy reviews now just show their hands and talk about the toy. I can show something very creative and different in my toy reviews that no one else can do. Now, it's very clear if you look at my toy review for Play-Doh sets, particularly the Monsters, Inc. Play-Doh set, because I was a professional sculptor of toy figures. I did action figures when they were actually hand sculpted by real people.
Yeah.
And so my Play-Doh reviews show my sculptures as professional sculptor material quality. It's funny to see them. There's no kids that are going to come up with sculptures like I did with these Play-Doh sets. But I think that by doing that, it will add something new and interesting. I mean, my reviews were good anyway. The part that a lot of these factory reviewers are missing is that my reviews were entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay, it's that if you turn on a YouTube channel or if you go on the internet, if you watch anything with video, you really at heart want to be entertained. You want to laugh. You want to see something that's fun. Or see something that's challenging or something that's provocative or something. And if you just open up here's an unboxing video of this toy like a lot of these factory people do. It's so boring. Here, we've opened the toy. This is what the toy does. Look, the toy talks. This is how it walks. This is where you put the batteries. That's boring. Really, it's not entertaining. My reviews, which a couple of those factory people tried to do, is I made voices. I actually did cartoon character voices to match the toys. And wow, there's something funny about that too, which is a whole topic of another show. And I don't know how far I can go with this, but I used to do a lot of cartoon character voices for early imported Japanese TV shows.
What, you did?
I did. I absolutely did.
You were a voice actor?
I was a voice actor back in the late 70s and about until 1987, 88. Mm-hmm. And I have copies of my contracts to prove I did the voices. Now, one of the problems at the time is that I wasn't part of any unions.
Yeah.
That was a big problem. So I couldn't be credited on screen. But I have all my original scripts for at least 25 different TV shows and the voices I did, plus the original contracts showing I did those voices. But at the time, if you weren't a union person, you weren't allowed to get credit. And I did try to get into the union at the time, but I never bothered because I was doing the voices for fun. I wasn't doing it for money. I wasn't doing it to make that my career. And I did those for quite a while, and it was a blast. That's how I got into WTXX in Waterbury, Connecticut, when I was doing that TV show with TX Critter, who later became Alf.
Yes, so you were telling us this before we recorded the podcast, but you actually were a part of Alf before Alf became a thing.
But look, I got some cool pogs. Alf pogs. Remember Alf? He's back in pod form.
Yes, and you can look it up online, and I've really got to correct some of the online references about this, is that in the later 80s, middle to later 80s, there was a TV show called Funtime Express. Well, it's called Funtime and Funtime Express, and I think the last iteration of the show was JJ and Funtime Express. That JJ is the host that followed me, and I hosted a kids' TV show in Connecticut, on Waterbury, Connecticut's Channel 20, WTXX. And I was the co-host with a puppet. The puppet was called TX Critter, the puppeteer was Paul Fusco. And there was another guy involved at the time, too. And I'd like to find out what happened to him, because he doesn't seem to be mentioned online with Alf, was Tony Basilicato, because he was there, too. But it was Alf. That puppet was Alf. It was the same puppeteer, and it was the same basic puppet frame as Alf, which became Alien Life Form on the successful television program.
Yeah.
But I appeared with that guy doing the kids' afternoon cartoon block. And I was the host, and I would draw pictures of different cartoon characters between the cartoon shows. And people thought it was all done live. And it wasn't. We used to film them all Friday afternoons from about noon to 5 or noon to 6. And I had a script of every cartoon that was going to be shown and what happened. So what would happen is the cartoon was going to end. Say, we had to cut to a commercial break, and Bugs Bunny just fell off a building and hit the sidewalk. And they would cut back to me and go, wow, Bugs Bunny, oh, will he make it? He's going to be okay. Tune in. Just come right back after these messages and see what happened to Bugs. And then when they'd come back, I'd often have a drawing partially made. I made during that break, allegedly, which it wasn't. I drew them all in advance. And I said, look, I sketched this up. This is what's going to happen with Bugs. Watch what happens. And we used to film those like that. I never even saw most of the cartoons that they were using at the time. You know, it's like they told, this is the list of the cartoons. This is what happens the moment that it breaks to a commercial. Work with it. And TX Critter and I worked with it for about 6 months over one summer. It was quite a lot of fun until I got real busy with college and couldn't do it anymore. And I used to be known as Mr. Mike. I was Mr. Mike on the show. So it was Mr. Mike and TX Critter on WTXX. Sort of a crazy thing to think about now. But at the time, I only have a few pictures of myself on the show, maybe a couple of videos. I'm hoping Channel 20 in Waterbury has more videos. But oddly enough, it was that TV show that led me to do a computer-generated TV commercial, one of the very first ever homemade, like, computer-generated TV commercials for Crestwood Ford in Waterbury, Connecticut. And that's why I became interested in PIXAR, was because I was offered to animate this TV commercial where I took this bear called Cresty for Crestwood Ford, and I animated this little bear walking around in a showroom with real people, like Mary Poppins, where the character's animated and he's overlaid onto real-life video. And I did the commercial, and I had it as a sample. And while I was working on it, I used a machine there called a Cytec machine, which I'm sure hasn't existed in 30 years. And they had samples of work that was being done by this little tiny startup company called PIXAR. And there was one that just captured my imagination called Knick Knack, which was a little snowman in a snow dome.
Yeah, I remember. It was on one of the bonus features for one of the DVDs of Pixar's movies.
Well, that is one of the earliest shorts, and I saw it on a tape, and it was a sample that gotten at a trade show, and it said must be destroyed by a certain date. Like this video must be destroyed by like January 1989 or something. And I thought that was funny. Wow. So if you had it, you had to promise that if you had it, you were going to destroy it.
So that could have been lost media, just knick-knack be destroyed?
Yeah, well, if it could have been, I don't think everyone would have destroyed them. But I think that, Pixar in its early days was in very fragile ground. And even when I went out there, the people at Pixar, I don't feel that they were confident that it was going to keep going. And of course, Pixar, when they started, I actually went to Pixar quite a few times in the early days. And when I first went out there, it was before Joe Ranft was there. And they were trying to pitch computers. They were trying to sell the computers to use to create animation rather than animation themselves. And they had all these Pixar computers everywhere they were trying to pitch. And it wasn't a very big company. This was a very small company, maybe 20 people the first time I went out. And the first time I went out, the person I really wanted to meet was John Lasseter, and he wasn't there when I went there the first time, which was sort of a disappointment. He was the creator of Knick Knack.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wasn't there. I did see him sleeping on a subsequent time. It's the only time I've ever met him. He was asleep, so he doesn't recall our meeting.
Oh, was he just on the sofa, just like when you show up?
Well, what happened is I went out to Pixar quite a few times. I thought they'd be a great place to work. I'd moved my family. I was married and had 2 little boys that were, like 1 and 2 years old. And I thought, wow, I want to work at Pixar. This is great. At the time, the first couple times I went out there, after the first time when I just mostly saw computers, when I actually saw them working on video productions, they were doing mostly TV commercials. And they were doing commercials for Listerine, like animated commercials for Listerine. They did gummy bears. They did Lifesavers gummies that were animated, like the little guy from Flubber. They were doing work like that. And they were doing this other production for California Lottery that had a woman at a piano. And they had animated the piano keys like a flyby. It was really dramatic. And I thought, wow, the woman's hair looks so bad. It looks like a big glob of hair gel on her head.
It was the 80s.
I guess then they weren't rendering hair very well at that point, I'll tell you. But I know that was for California Lottery. But yeah, so when I went out, I really wanted to work at Pixar. And there was a gentleman I'd become friends with there named Joe Ranft. And I went out one of the times and, he said, you could probably get in here. We've had a lot of problems. This is the early days of Pixar. This is before any of their feature films came out. This is when they were struggling to get by earning some money with these commercials. They had become part of Apple at that point, the Apple computer company.
Yeah.
They were like an incubator thing for them. And I said, wow, this will be great. And he says, so Joe Ranft said, well, you have to think of your family and your children. You have this huge extended family in Connecticut. You're going to move to California. No grandpa, no grandma, no relatives. And you're going to be working so many hours. You're not going to spend the time you really need with them, especially at the ages they are. And he said, you see that guy laying on that sofa over there? That's John Lasseter. That's what you're going to be like if you start working here. And this guy was sound asleep on the sofa because he'd worked so many hours and was waiting for something to render at the time because rendering took a long time.
Yeah.
That was my sole time I ever met John Lasseter. He was asleep on the sofa. And it was because of that recommendation I actually did decide, I'll stay in Connecticut. He said, when your children are like 10, 12, 14 years old, as they get older, as they've grown up with their families and, and they've had this, this great living environment. If you still want to work, I'm sure there'll be a place out here, in California. If it's not Pixar, this will be the coming thing, computer animation, you'll be fine. And as it turned out, I did take his advice. And, of course, I think everyone knows what happened to Pixar after that point.
Yep.
But that was quite an interesting point in my life, too, when I was going out there. And Joe Ranft, the gentleman that I had friended at the company, unfortunately passed away tragically. And I always feel sort of bad about it because it was somebody I liked. I mean, we weren't dear friends. We weren't even that close, but we talked. He would have a question, especially about toys, and he wouldn't hesitate to call me or send me a message if he just needed some information. And it was sort of a nice relationship. And he collected magic trick things. He loved magic trick things. Joe Ranft, for anyone that's listening that doesn't know who he is, he was one of the lead writers of most of the early Disney features. I believe he was the lead writer on Monsters, Inc., or one of the lead writers, and he is one of the writers of Disney Pixar's Cars, the first Cars movie.
Yeah.
And he actually appears as characters in some of them, with a voice talent in some of those movies.
Slow down, you flowers!
Joe Ranft is the most brilliant story man ever to work in animation. He's also very funny.
Yoo-hoo, Mr. Early Bird! How about a nice, tasty worm on a stick?
Well, he started doing the voice of Heimlich as this, like, Bavarian German mama's boy.
Boysenberry!
And all of a sudden, Joe's scratch track for Heimlich becomes one of the most endearing, and I think probably one of the most enduring characters from the movie.
Wasn't he also the Yeti in Monsters, Inc.? No, wait, I remember... Never mind.
No, he's not the Yeti. That was the...
No,
that's the truck.
Oh. I'm forgetting things. I haven't seen those movies in years, but I remember something specific.
I forget what the guy's name is, but he's the guy that was in Cheers. And then at the end is one of the extra credits when in Cars. The Cars extra at the end when they're watching the credits go by. Mack Truck and Lightning McQueen go to the theater and they're watching a car Toy Story. No, Monsters, Inc. with cars, I think it is.
Monster Trucks, Inc., I think.
Yeah, Monsters Trucks, Inc., and it says the Abominable Snowplow. And it says, hey, they just keep using the same voices over and over again. What kind of cut rate production is this?
I remember, now I remember that scene.
Yeah. I think that in Cars, wow, it's just funny now to think about it. I think in Cars, he might have been the voice of the Peterbilt guy, either the Peterbilt guy or the RV that was on the field. I'm not sure.
Wheezy, you're fixed.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Shark looked in the toy box and found me an extra squeaker.
And how do you feel?
Oh, I feel swell. In fact, I think I feel a song coming on.
You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. You just remember what your old pal said, baby, you've got a friend in me.
Because, again, at the time, when these things are happening at the time, you don't think anything of them. Yeah. It's just someone you kind of know, and you know a lot of people. So you don't think that that relationship was any different than any other. But now in hindsight, looking back, wow, what a person to have known at that time period. What a person to have interacted with and heard their stories and did talk to them. And think that you might have had some influence on some of these early productions. And you've met someone that really had a lot of influence on early productions. But at the time, looking back, it just didn't seem like a big deal. It was like, what a nice guy, you know? My whole life has been full of people like that. My life is still full of people like that. And like, which one of these relationships is going to turn out to be the one? Wow, I wish I recorded this better. Wow, I wish I spent more time with that person. Just not knowing. When I was starting out, when I was doing my children's book illustration, I used to do a lot of work with the comic strip artists, the guys that actually were doing Blondie and High and Lois, and I'm just thinking of all the strips that the people worked on. A lot of them you don't know anymore because the strips have sort of gone by the wayside. But like, who knows the comic strip Flip anymore? But it was a big comic strip 30 years ago. And I used to have lunch with all these people at a pizza place in Danbury, Connecticut, where they all used to meet.
Yeah.
You know, you'd meet great cartoonists there. They would all gather. Here's the artist. Here's Leonard Starr here. You know, at the time Leonard Starr was doing The Heart of Juliet Jones, but he was doing Blondie at the time because he had taken over for wow. Funny, I didn't think I'd be talking about this part of it. But the original artist had gotten too old or something, and he'd taken over the comic strip for him for a while. And Gil Thorpe was a comic strip, and the artist was there for that. And I used to sit and eat lunch with all these guys. And at the time, I didn't think it was anything that big. But now I wish I had taken video, which would have been impossible. There were no video cameras back there in 77, 78 that people had. But what a magical moment in time where all these artists used to gather once a week for years and years and years at, I think it was called John's Pizza in Danbury, Connecticut.
Are you thankful that now we have social media to catalog these sort of things and just these experiences?
Yeah, back then, everything was expensive. I've had so many people ask me, why didn't you catalog this better? Well, back then I was poor. I grew up impoverished. You know, my father was a janitor at a YMCA. Think how much money we had growing up. We had nothing. And back then, photography was expensive. If you bought a roll of 12 Kodacolor pictures as negatives and put them in a camera, the film itself at the time was probably $3 or $4, which was a lot in 1978. That was a lot of money. It was like $14 now, maybe.
Hey, little buddy, want to ride?
PIXAR.
Yeah, whatever.
I'll be right back.
Where can you catch all 150 Pokemon? Got on your Game Boy, that's where. Pokemon for Game Boy is here. With both packs, you can catch them all.
I still play Pokemon Go. Hate to admit it. Okay, stop laughing, everybody.
Oh, sorry.
But one of the reasons that I've studied Pokemon Go is that I knew that it would become a platform, or that exact type of gaming would become the ultimate way for people to virtually shop in stores. You could actually go to a store virtually and go into the store and walk around the store virtually, and it could actually point out sales as you're virtually walking down an aisle.
Yeah, what was it called? Augmented reality?
Augmented reality, but not really. Augmented reality would mean you'd have glasses on walking through the store, and little videos might come up in the glasses pointing it. I think that a lot of people are going to be shopping from their homes.
Because, like, I feel like people are going to be, online stores are going to be a bigger thing, since, like, people don't want to deal with going out to these places and being asked, like, hey, do you want to sign up for this membership? Do you want to sign up for this? And all these other things.
Speaking of augmented reality, the Nintendo Switch, in its, like, patents and such, it clearly has capability and most likely will be going towards augmented reality in the future.
Yes.
And so with it being the screen and such, being able to interact with things, I think it's going to be really big. So I think Nintendo is already kind of like jumping on, which ironically, I guess Nintendo didn't really have anything to do with Pokemon Go, but, you know, it's kind of the same thing. Like they're going through, and I honestly believe augmented reality is going to be a thing.
I don't think that augmented reality is going to be the thing as virtual reality, where someone could be in their own home and say they have a joystick on their phone and they're actually walking around in stores choosing the groceries they want virtually.
Yeah.
Having a virtual shopping basket that looks real, so you can physically look into it and see the items that you put in it virtually. Then you virtually check out and those items are delivered to your home. I've seen a lot of material that is in test form right now. The normal people out in the world haven't seen. I still do a lot of consulting on such things. And there's been a new game released, if you're not aware of it, called Garfield Go. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I heard about that. It's pretty much Pokemon Go, but with Garfield.
Yeah, but it's more geared towards marketing. It's more geared towards sales. And if you actually download it in your phone and look at it, instead of Pokemon Go, where you're just collecting different Pokemon and hoping to battle them someday, Garfield Go is you uncover gift cards to Starbucks, gift cards to Amazon.com.
That's pretty interesting.
I barely played it. I just downloaded it when it became available a few days ago, and I've barely played it, and I've gotten $15 in legitimate gift cards.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and if you get Garfield Go, you go to any major retail store in the country, at least in my area of Connecticut, and every single main entrance to almost every single store is a Pokestop.
Yeah.
Well, it's a Garfield stop. It's like a coin. But if you click on the coin, it shows you, walk into this store right now and you can get 10% off all certain things, but only with this Garfield coupon. That's a pretty big deal. If you're going to a store anyway, and you're going to buy milk anyway, and now you get a coupon for 15% off milk because you just happened to turn on the Garfield app, that's going to be what's going to happen with Pokemon Go and other similar apps, is that you're going to be led around the stores at first, with this type of augmented reality. But it's going to turn into virtual reality where people don't want to go to stores. People don't want to go to Walmart. I have bad experiences at Walmart. Every time I go to Walmart, they always have, I don't know, it drags the people out of the woods. That I don't know who these people are.
People of Walmart.com.
Yes, go to people of Walmart and you'll understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything bad about these people. However they live their lives is fine with me. Mm-hmm. It's just I wish that their particular lives wouldn't interact with mine too much. And at Walmart, they interact way too much.
I mean, it's basically like I think it's people just barely woke up in the morning. It's like, well, time to go to Walmart.
Time to go to Walmart. And I would say that, you go to a store, say, for example, Walmart, and you go to the toy department. Yeah. Often it's trashed.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the lower class parents don't watch their kids, and the kids tear apart the toys and trash the aisles.
Have you been to a Kmart?
Yes, what's left of them, yes.
Yes, it feels like that store is closing down, but it never closes.
It's like walking back in time. I would say it's almost like post-apocalyptic retailing. Where an apocalypse happened, the stores suffered all the damage, yet now they're bringing in new goods after the apocalypse.
Yeah.
The stores are in such bad shape.
There are no rules.
Kmart is your savings store, where your dollar buys you more.
Save on Kmart's Matchmates, a huge fashion selection, now 1/3 off. New for fall mix and match styles are marked down 1/3 during this great in-season sale. Choose from a beautiful collection of colorful coordinates and save 1/3 during the Matchmate in-season sale through Saturday at Kmart.
Kmart is the saving place.
Yeah, so you know all these things, apparently, all these technology things that we don't know, and it's like, what is it that you do outside of YouTube and painting?
I have been, most of my income for 20 years, since I've been doing the children's books, has come from using my research library of catalogs to protect people in copyright and patent and trademark lawsuits. Mm-hmm. I'm a legal researcher, and I'm a witness in testimony for people that are being sued for infringement. I just cost the Nike Corporation at least $500 million in a recent case where they tried to sue everyone that was making canvas sneakers that looked like Converse All-Stars. Uh-huh. They registered the appearance of what common Converse All-Star sneakers look like. Mm-hmm. And then they sued everyone saying, well, we have the trademark on this design. Converse invented it. The Nike Corporation bought out Converse. And if you were my age, you would know that every sneaker before 1977 looked like Converse All-Stars. They all looked the same. Mm-hmm. There was no difference. Yeah. You could actually see a website I put up when I first heard about the suit. I put up a blogger blog. If you search Mike Mozart and Converse sneakers, it should show up.
I'll link that below.
Yeah. So what happened is that I did research in my catalog collection and made scans of many, many hundreds of pages, thousands of pages, however many it turned out to be. And I appeared in Washington to actually give a deposition in the case, and my evidence was crucial to have the judge rule against Nike.
Mm. Wow.
And it cost, and if they had won, which they would have won without my evidence, they would have won, because who saves this stuff? Nobody saves old catalogs. Mm-hmm. And I have the only collection in the country, which I'm selling, by the way, which I'm going to offer for sale in just a week or so. Mm-hmm. I saved Skechers and quite a few other corporations. Walmart was being sued. I saved them $500 million from the research I did.
This is crazy, because like most people just know you as that toy guy, but you just do all these things on the side, all these paintings, and you're sort of like a lawyer, I guess, right? Or what would you say?
I'm more of a historian, I should say.
Yeah, I guess so.
Been to what? Been to who? Been to roofs! The amazing flexible building sticks. Shape them, wrap them, stick them. But you can't break them. Magical wax over super strong string make Bend to Roofs do most anything. draw with Bindaroos.
And that's how I was a toy designer. What I would do is bring back old toys that the patents had lapsed on. And I used this catalog collection to find great old toys to bring back to life, that the patents had run out on and all the rights had run out on. One of mine was shown on my Instagram lately called Bendaroos.
Oh, yeah.
And
I remember that from a few years ago. Yeah, you were talking about this on the live stream, Bendaroos.
Yeah, that was a patented product. The patent had expired. And I liked the item. I found original samples of the product and presented it to an infomercial company and said, you can bring this out and not get sued.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems in the United States right now, and you hear about it all the time, are patent trolls that sue people.
Yeah.
One of the problems is that you could bring out almost any product in the United States right now and get sued.
Mm-hmm.
If you came up with what you thought was a brand new cool original toy and you bring it out to Walmart and you file patents on it, if it sells $20 million worth of product, you are going to get sued by 5 different entities claiming it somehow infringes some of their intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
None of my products I have ever invented or created have ever resulted in a lawsuit. Because I find old products that are at least 20 years old. So any of the patents, any of the utility patents, the functionality patents will have expired.
Have you you know about Gene Simmons, the guy from Kiss, right?
Of course, I know who he is. I know he became a DJ.
Do you know about all his trademarks and patent things that he's done?
No.
We have a friend who works on a Cartoon Network show, and they were talking about how they had a scene with a bank robbery in a cartoon, and they realized that they cannot have a scene where they can't show the robbers holding a bag of money with a $sign on it, because apparently Gene Simmons trademarked that and various other things.
See, money bags with $signs have been one of the most ubiquitous, common, icons of any type of painting or drawing or cartoon of money going back 100 years. There's too many of them. That certainly, I can't imagine what he's claiming there. I'm just saying that just because somebody files a patent or a trademark on something, it doesn't mean that it's a legitimate filing or a legitimate claim. I don't know what his claim is, but it sounds a little out there. I'm certain Disney would be upset seeing that Uncle Scrooge dives around in a money bin and has since like 1948 or even earlier than 1948 in the comic books where there's bags of money with $signs.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's been out there since before Gene Simmons was born to have that feature. So I don't know what to say about that. That's something I'm sort of taken aback by.
Yeah.
But I would say that, again, I'm not the expert in interpreting things. What I am is I'm the collector. I'm the authenticator. What I did is I collected what I believed in the future would be evidence, and I documented it to show that it's authentic, so that the real pros at the law firms will know exactly what to do with it.
Because I did not know about this part. Like, I knew about the toy thing and all the PIXAR stuff, but I didn't know you were with all this legal information and documentations and stuff.
Yeah, that's a large part of what I do right now.
Yeah.
But again, it's a collection I am selling. I'll be selling it hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Do you also keep all the toys that you've reviewed over the years, or do you just give those away?
I have every toy I've ever reviewed except for just a handful. There's only a couple I'm missing.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I'm missing them is because of the Conan O'Brien show.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I was booked to appear on Conan to review the worst toys in history and the worst toys of the holiday season, which was probably 5 years ago.
Oh man, since I'm a huge fan of Conan, but I've never seen that. I need to find that if it's on YouTube.
Well, no, I never appeared. Listen to what happened.
Oh, what?
Conan, do you remember when the Tonight Show was?
Oh yeah, the NBC.
Yeah. And Conan did not get the slot to be host of the Tonight Show.
Mm-hmm.
And he went off the wall for 5 days. His last 5 days on that network before he switched.
Yeah.
And I was scheduled to appear the day that Pee Wee Herman appeared.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Now, Jay Leno had not left his show yet. They just announced that Conan wasn't getting it. And Conan, of course, was putting on this big special extravaganza week to say, screw NBC, I'm leaving. Yeah. So, oh my God, what do I do here? So Pee Wee Herman was appearing where I should have appeared because it was his last week. He wanted his favorite guest on, and Pee Wee Herman got it instead of me. I was all booked, had my tickets, and I sent my toys out. So I said, okay, can you get me? They said, we'll get you on Leno. We'll switch you to Leno. How about that? That's fine. Switch me over to Leno. Right? So, well, we have to redo the tickets. This is crazy because they didn't know this was going to happen. This was a disaster. I still have all my emails and everything about this happening too. But I had already sent out hundreds of toys. I only sent a few of the real classic ones, like a really nice Rad Repeating Tarzan, Dora the Explorer Aqua Pet, that looks like a big dildo. I sent out a bunch of toys like that ahead, plus some of the new failed toys I thought were failed for the season. So I sent them ahead, and when Pee Wee Herman was on, that may be on YouTube. I'd say it's likely that appearance is on YouTube. Pee Wee Herman actually sits on a Roomba and rides around on a Roomba on that thing. So what happened is they actually showed him some of the toys. My toys were actually appeared with Pee Wee Herman. Man. And I didn't get any credit on either show. Now listen, either show. When I say either show, so some of my toys were shown, and a couple of them he just looked at and threw behind the sofa. And so they said they sent the toys over to Leno, but apparently they all didn't make it over there because Conan kept some of them. So they said that there was no way to book me on Leno because there wasn't enough time. We're really sorry. We'll get your toys sent back to you. So then Leno did toys. He did my toys. All the toys that I was going to review, Leno did himself without me.
Oh, man, that's horrible.
They were my toys, the toys I bought and sent out. Now, what happened is that should be on YouTube, too. Try to find a date that's right about the time of Pee Wee Herman's appearance on the last of Conan O'Brien shows. So he showed the toys, and Leno did a terrible job. He really didn't know what the stuff was. And he just sort of showed it and said, this is funny. Wow, look at this one. Look at this one.
Yeah.
And I was livid that not only did I not go, but they showed all the toys anyway. So I called the production staff and says, I want my toys back. Where are the toys? And they said, we're sorry, we gave them away. When we finished filming that night, everyone took them home. We don't know where they are now.
They gave away that dildo-shaped Dora toy.
Yeah, but a lot of other toys, too, that I'd spent thousands of dollars of my own money on to buy.
Well, that's even worse. God.
Yeah. So I was really upset. Now, NBC has shown my work a lot, and I used to appear on NBC on the Bonnie Hunt show. Bonnie Hunt is a frequent voice actor in PIXAR movies. She is Sally in the Cars movies. I just saw the new Cars movie, Cars 3. It was excellent. I really liked it.
I heard it was better than the other ones, yeah.
It was better than 2. It was probably an overall better movie as entertainment than number 1. Number 1 was very slow paced, which I really liked. That slow Doc Hollywood pacing.
Yeah.
But the 3 had a lot more excitement. It was really nice. I really liked 3 quite a lot. But so it was the PIXAR connection people, the early people at PIXAR that knew me, recommended to Bonnie Hunt, why don't you have him on your show? He does all these toy reviews on YouTube. He's really funny. So I appeared on Bonnie Hunt's show quite a few times reviewing toys. And that show used to come on NBC before Ellen for years. It wasn't a short-lived show. It was on for 7 or 8 seasons at least. A very nice show. So I actually appeared on the Bonnie Hunt show with Sally the Car from Cars.
Yeah.
And those videos are on YouTube. If you search that on YouTube, just search Bonnie Hunt and Mike Mozart, and you'll see that I appeared on her show.
Last season, our next guest showed us some great gifts for the holidays. We had so much fun with him. We're having him back. He's here to show us the season's hottest must-have gifts. Please welcome back to the show, toy expert Mike Mozart. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, Bonnie. I love you.
Nice to see you again.
Oh, it's great to be back. I'm no Charlie this year.
Well, I was afraid after what he did to Biscuit.
And one of the shows I appeared on, guests on that show were James Cameron, because Avatar just released, and Michelle Rodriguez. And Miss Piggy was on that show, so I got to meet all those people and hang with all those people.
What a random set of people to show up on the same day.
Yeah, she tended to have a lot of... I think this is what made her show a little bit more interesting, is that she took a lot of people that you would never put together normally, and she'd mix them together, and it made for a very entertaining show. It's like someone like James Cameron will say, well, I never appeared with Miss Piggy before. And she'll say, I hear you're a producer. Could you get me in a movie? You know, as Miss Piggy. So it's entertaining to have characters mixed up like that. She was a great show. It was a really nice show.
Yeah, you need to make more videos on your own YouTube channel, like, you know, tell people about your stories, because people really want to know, like, where have you been? And I'm sure a lot of these people still don't know all these things that you just told us. Like, you got a lot to say.
Yeah, they don't know. They really don't know. Yeah, but let me just say, what happened in the street art is that I always believed that street art, graffiti art, would become a big movement in the United States. And it is right now. The movement, the art movement is called urban art. That's what the movement is actually called. That encompasses street art, graffiti art, that type of environmental art. And what I do is, right now, the work I'm doing is more pop art. It is grouped, of course, in urban art because of the characters and the background of how I got here. And how I got here is every decade or so, I have tried to become an artist in galleries in New York City doing fine art. Because if you're in a gallery in New York City and your work is selling, it's really considered fine art if you're at that stage. And it was always my dream, but gallery owners are very hesitant to take a commercial artist who now is doing gritty street art looking stuff and say, and that's a completely different style. And they'll say, well, we can't do it. You're a commercial artist. You do Mickey Mouse and Winnie the Pooh. We can't put these street art things you do in here because people call them phony and that you just created this look to jump on the bandwagon. But I'd been doing this since the early 70s when I was a little kid. It's just that I couldn't interest anyone at the time because no one believed in it. In the 70s, no art gallery would carry it. It wasn't until Keith Haring really opened the door. Keith Haring and Basquiat really opened the door. So I tried about a decade later again, and again, I got the same reaction from New York City galleries. Back then, there were a lot of galleries in New York City. There had to be 1,000 art galleries in Manhattan. They were everywhere. I couldn't get one of them to bite on me. I tried so hard. But Andy Warhol had the same problem. He was a commercial artist, and he had a hard time getting into a gallery because of his commercial background. So in the 90s, around 91, 92, I got so frustrated because I wanted to be in an art gallery in New York City. I wanted to do this type of art. I started meeting a lot of other artists that were doing it at the time and trying to do it. And the artists, wow, they were all starting out. They were all broke. And here I am, a professional artist that knows what works. I know what designs work. I know what colors work. I know what grabs people's attention. Plus, I come from a whole background of advertising, and product design and how to make packaging that makes people want to buy something. So I started helping a lot of other artists without getting any money, not collaborations, just behind the scenes, mentoring people. This is what I think you should do. You've already got your foot in the door somewhere. You should focus on this aspect of your work. You should use these brighter colors. You should do these faces like this. And I started helping a lot of artists. As the 90s went along into the early 2000s, I probably was mentoring 15 to 17 major artists in New York City. And a couple of them are huge now, very, very big artists. One of them must do $100 million a year. And so in the early 2000s, I met another artist that was named Alec Monopoly. It wasn't known as Alec Monopoly really at the time. It was more or less known as Alec. And that's why I'm doing the artwork now, basically, is that was another person among many that I mentored and helped and got his career really moving along. I gave him very iconic designs I developed. I gave him a lot of the right colors. I showed him the different things he should be doing to get seen. And unfortunately, it turned out bad at the end. That was the only thing that ever turned out bad in my life, helping somebody. And I went public to say, guess what, guys? That was the guy doing a lot of this work behind Alec Monopoly's whole machine, where he's up to making tens of millions of dollars a year. Here's an artist making tens of millions of dollars a year.
You were like a ghost artist for him, essentially, right?
Yeah, I was a mentor and ghost artist designer. I didn't usually ghost artists do the paintings themselves. What I did is I would do the drawings in black and white, scan the black and white drawings, color them in to show him where all the colors went. He would project the black and white and trace the black and white designs and color them in by my color guides to show, like paint by numbers to show him where to put the colors.
Mm-hmm.
And it went along for quite a while. And I do artwork very fast. On my live shows, I do artwork. I can do drawings and paintings very, very quickly. And it was just one of a number of artists I was helping because I hadn't really done artwork since the late 1990s. And I was so bored not doing art. It was so great to do something artwork related every day. And I really liked doing the characters because he started with me doing Mr. Monopoly. He'd already done a couple Monopoly things, but that really wasn't his focus at the time. But I sort of got him into the luxury characters of Mr. Monopoly and Uncle Scrooge, which was a favorite of mine because I had done DuckTales artwork years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Carl Barks, who was the father of Uncle Scrooge McDuck particularly. And I like Richie Rich comics. I have almost a full collection of Richie Rich comics in my studio office here, which I'm unfortunately cannibalizing now to use as backgrounds for my paintings.
Uh-oh.
But, what can I say? It's all for a good cause. So,
you got to use what you have. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something else I must mention. Here's a whole topic of another show, which I'm going to start showing on my Instagram.
Yeah.
I have one of the largest collections of Monopoly-related games and memorabilia, probably the largest one held in private hands at the moment. There was a collection that had more valuable, incredible stuff, the Forbes collection, which was sold recently. But I've collected Monopoly memorabilia since the 70s. And I have the original train, the little toy train that belonged to the creator of Monopoly, that he actually drew to make the little train on the spaces. And I have his original black and white drawing of the train he made for those spaces on the boards.
Wow.
I have one of his original hand-drawn boards he drew himself on cloth. It's like on oilcloth. I have his letters back and forth to Parker Brothers and a number of other companies he was trying to sell it to at the time. And I know the real background history of the Monopoly game, how he made it and sold it, and a lot of that information came out in a book. That wasn't my book, but another person made a book of it. Yeah, discovered a lot of what I had already known from my collecting all the memorabilia over the years, with my original letters, with my original documentation, to show that the original creator, Charles Darrow of Monopoly, basically just outright stole the idea.
What?
Just stole it.
Oh.
Did some artwork and called it his own and started to try to peddle it to toy companies.
Now at McDonald's, Monopoly is more than a game. You can play it for real. You can win real money up to $100,000. Here's a better idea. You could win these exciting real video games from Sega. See McDonald's for rules. Pull these tabs and stick to your saver board. So go to McDonald's and play Monopoly for real today.
You haven't even started. You've scratched the surface. We didn't even go into the PIXAR stuff. We didn't.
I know, it's crazy. Just like, you got to talk about that on your own channel. Like, people would love to hear about the beginning of PIXAR because we only talk about the pre-Toy Story PIXAR. You know so much.
Yeah, the pre-Toy Story, the pre-anything PIXAR, the PIXAR that I swear when I went out there was sort of a gloom and doom feeling place when I first was going out there.
Yeah.
It's that they probably were worried that they'd even be in business next year. They weren't making enough money. The computers, and when they started doing those computers, weren't making the money they wanted. They had the technology, and Steve Jobs is the one that kept them alive. Is Steve Jobs buying them out from Lucas? I guess Lucas was losing money big time and was forced to sell a lot of stuff just to stay alive at one time, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
And then Steve Jobs just dumped money into this PIXAR to keep it alive. When probably no other company would. You know, it's somebody that really had a vision of the future to do that. And he had that vision and he did it. And even the people working there, you know, it became very stressful apparently for them at times when it doesn't look like the money would be there. And as it turned out, the money was just enough to keep them going until they became known as PIXAR.
Yeah.
I just wish that Joe Ramp didn't meet his untimely death when he did, because he was such an instrumental part of all the early wonderful PIXAR works. And I think he would have really changed the works after 2006 that PIXAR did. I think his input would have really improved the stories a lot. It's not that the stories were bad. but I don't think they were the same feel and type of stories that Pixar had earlier. Like the original Monsters, Inc. was wonderful. I didn't like the follow-up Monsters, Inc. that much.
No, it was
Monsters University.
Yeah, it was standard.
And I just got to say something. Monsters University.
Yeah.
That movie just irritates me so much. That's so many inconsistencies from the first Monsters, Inc. Because from the first Monsters, Inc., it was mentioned a few times in the trailers and in the extras in the movie itself, is that Sully and Mike Wazowski knew each other since they were children in grade school.
I'm telling you, Big Daddy, you're going to be seeing this face on TV a lot more often.
Yeah, like on Monstropolis' Most Wanted.
You've been jealous of my good look since the 4th grade, pal. You've been jealous of my good look since the 4th grade, pal.
How could they not? How could they change that important part of the whole backstory?
I know, it would have really changed the dynamic of the two if they knew each other and since preschool. Like how I would have fixed it, maybe just have a line of them saying oh yeah, I remember you in preschool and first grade or something. Just have something like that.
Yeah, but that was not in that movie at all. And the thing I have to say about Pixar or Disney is that I was doing Disney artwork before The Little Mermaid came out.
Yeah.
I was doing Black Cauldron artwork and artwork based on Oliver and Company and movies like that. And you'd walk out of those movies and you wouldn't remember anything. You'd watch the movies in the theaters and people would walk out, and a week later you didn't really remember. I mean, of course there are people out there say, "Oh my God, Black Cauldron's my favorite movie ever. I remember every scene." Well, you watched it 600 times on VHS. That's why you know it. But when somebody watched it in the theaters and walked out, could you recall lines? Could you remember exact moments? Could you sing the songs? And when they walked out of Disney's Little Mermaid, when that came out in theaters, that was the turning point that saved Disney. I was doing a lot of Disney work before that. They were in the gutter. No one thought Disney was going to survive.
The Disney Renaissance.
Yeah. People walked out of Little Mermaid singing the songs, talking about specific scenes, remembering words. That's the way a movie should be.
Yeah.
And so that happened. That just happened when I went to see Cars 3. I walked out of the theater and I remembered specific parts I liked. I remembered lines of the movie. I remembered things I really liked about it. I remembered the school bus, the lady school bus that was called the Fritter. That was entertaining. I remembered that. I liked that. And that Disney sort of lost that. A lot of their movies, like Moana, was such a beautiful movie. Oh, how beautiful this movie is. What's your favorite line out of the movie? Can you sing one line of any song from that movie?
It's shining.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick your hiney.
I love Jimmy and Clement.
Yeah, I'm just saying is that it's lost that.
Moana is kind of like a standard Disney movie. It's not it's by the numbers.
When you create a movie or you create anything that's entertaining, anything that you want to appeal to people, you have to think that you're creating individual pieces of iconography. There has to be something that's an icon. And when I say that, this is something that artists years ago used to drill into me. The old guys that were 80 years old. Everything has to be remembered. That you want them to look at your artwork and they turn away and they've remembered it. And Andy Warhol was the same way. His Marilyn Monroe series, everyone knows it. It's an icon. It's just the way it looked and the way it appealed and everything. As Elvis, that has the two guns out, where Elvis is cowboy. Certain images of Andy Warhol's are very, very, very iconic. And Disney used to have a lot of iconic scenes, iconic songs, things that were burned into your memory because they had so much appeal.
Yeah.
And they seem to have lost that a lot.
One thing's missing is there's no memorable villains for a while. There haven't been a good memorable villain from them.
Well, Terminator hasn't always been this glam. I was a drab little crab once. Now I know I can be happy as a clam. Because I'm beautiful, deck and make it look shiny. I will sparkle like a wealthy woman's neck. Just a sec, don't you know?
Oh, my favorite when Aladdin was in production, I was doing a lot of products for Aladdin, consumer products out there.
Yeah.
And I was being sent to Disney Studios when the movie was in production. Because back then, if you're working on toys that have to release when the movie comes out, and you're the person designing them or working on the books or the Easter egg color kits or whatever, you got to go out there and see what they've done with the movie to that point in production, because products have to be developed and designed at least 6 months ahead of the movie release.
Yeah.
So they can be on store shelves when the movie's out there. That movie had so many issues, so many problems, so many things that I really fought and complained about that I didn't like. They changed Aladdin.
That brings up a really good point. Going back to Moana, apparently the chicken character in production was supposed to be like a guard dog and angry and aggressive. And so in all the merchandise, in all the posters, you have this like angry looking chicken. And then when you actually watch the movie, it's this like goofball, like dead, like just brain dead chicken thing. Yeah, it's completely contrasting. So that makes a lot of sense with all the production promo stuff is done 6 months in advance. Back then, the story was completely different. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so Aladdin was like that. Aladdin changed so much in production; it was crazy up until the last minute. I mean, 6 weeks before this movie's released. I don't think they actually finished the animation on that until about 6 weeks before it came out in theaters, because they changed so many bits and pieces and parts. That movie's so full of mistakes too. That is probably the most mistake-filled movie in history. Beyond any other, it's just loaded. I'm sorry, I don't even remember how I segued into this.
Well, just like Disney, Pixar, and stuff.
Yeah, well, I was also talking about iconic images, iconic movies.
Yeah.
When you create something, it has to have those iconic images. That's what people remember, those moments. I would say a great one is the spaghetti and meatball scene with Lady and the Tramp, where they're singing "This Is the Night."
Yeah.
Where they are sucking that piece of spaghetti until they come and kiss, and she turns away shy. That is such an iconic moment in a Disney movie. Everyone knows that. That is like perfect. And they don't seem to focus on creating moments like that. There's nothing, and Moana didn't have a lot of those moments that should have been full of them. The Little Mermaid was all those moments. Everything about Little Mermaid was moments like that, where people remembered that moment.
Very iconic shots and poses and stuff.
Yeah. And that's what Disney's lost a lot of lately that I've seen. And when I did my street art, when I was helping a lot of artists, I tried to say, you draw very well, your paintings are beautiful, but they're not iconic. You have to come up with images that are very strong and very striking, that people, at a glance, they'll look at a glance and they'll remember that, because that's what they like. That's what appealed to them. That's what opened their hearts, that they remember. Right? And that's something else about the Pixar story that was told to me by Joe Ranft, his idea of what happened before Toy Story 1.
Yeah.
Because it seemed to be, when he told me the story or the bits and pieces, it was all iconic moments, like those moments.
Yeah, because
when something was realized, something was known, something was shared, something became, alive. There's not a lot of things coming alive anymore.
To fill people in on the live stream, you discussed Joe Rand, was it right?
Joe Ranft.
Joe Ranft. He talked about you were talking about how there was a Toy Story prequel that he came up with, and he was telling you this story, and you told us this, and it was just like this great detail about the origin of Woody and where he came from and where Slinky came from.
Yeah, but it wasn't a Toy Story prequel. It wasn't a prequel at all. At the end of our conversation, at the end of the conversation I had with him about it, I said, "Wow, it sounds like you already have a prequel, a Toy Story 0. I even called it that. You have the prequel to Toy Story 1."
Yeah.
And he said, "There's never going to be another Toy Story movie." He said it's just so matter of factly, and he's such a great guy, such a warm, friendly, wonderful human being. But he said, "There's never going to be another Toy Story movie." He said Toy Story 2 was a major problem, caused a lot of divide in Pixar and Disney. Apparently, Toy Story 2 was supposed to be a made-for-DVD movie.
Yeah.
I guess they had a contract with Disney where Pixar would create, I don't know what the deal was, but he said it quickly. It was something like Pixar would create 3 theatrical release movies and maybe 3 direct-to-DVD movies. Something like that.
If I remember correctly, it was about, I think the original story was of Buzz Lightyear. He got a defect, so they had to go to Japan to fix him.
Yeah, well, what he had explained to me, because I didn't know, he didn't say any backstory about Buzz Lightyear. He wasn't involved in this. It was all about what happened before Toy Story 1. And Buzz wasn't involved in that. His information he gave me was mostly from the 1950s, late 50s, early 60s. But apparently he believed that Pixar would never produce another Toy Story movie at the time, because Disney apparently, when Toy Story 2, it became apparent that it was good enough for theatrical release, and they decided to bring it to theatrical release, and it was released in theaters, that Disney decided they weren't going to count that as a theatrical release because it had started as a direct-to-DVD release. So they said, we're not going to count this in our contract as a theatrical release, even though it came out in theaters.
Yeah.
This is what he told me. I might be wrong, and it might be 20 years of faulty memory, but I'm pretty sure that's what the basic story was. And but I pointed out to Joe Ranft that there were a lot of inconsistencies. I said there were errors. I actually said the word errors. There's errors in Toy Story 1 and 2 that just don't make any sense. I can't believe that there were mistakes like that. And he said, there are no mistakes. The movies are perfect. Perfect. It just said the word just calmly and just very pleasantly, perfect. And I'll say, well, I would say that one of the largest errors that I see, or something that doesn't make any sense to me, is how come Andy's having his birthday party and there's no dad? What happened to his dad if all the kids are having this wonderful, happy birthday party? He's all excited. There's no tears. There's no sad people, but there's no father there. If he had gotten a divorce, people would be very upset at the party, right? Because, he wants dad there and he probably can't because of divorce. If his father died, it must be just recently because he has a little sister and a playpen that's about, 14 or 16 months old. So if he died, it must have been within the last year. And I'm sure everyone would be upset. It'd be a real sad occasion to have your first birthday without dad. And I said, it just can't be right. And he said, well, it's a long story, but it's Andy's dad had died. He said his father died. And I said, Andy's father's dead, just like that, Ted. And it says, well, at the time, I guess he realized that Disney was going to buy them or own them or something. He says, the first thing he said, look, Disney killed off Cinderella's father in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Yeah. Disney loves killing off dads. Oh, God. Like, oh, yeah, they do that, don't they?
Yeah.
So...
But I just want to say that you don't have to go over the entire story of Toy Story 0. People can watch your live stream. I can link to it below.
Oh, that has so many mistakes. Not mistakes. They aren't mistakes. It's just there's so many more details I didn't go into. There's a lot of details.
I think you should make a video on your own to attract people to your YouTube channel.
Okay.
Also, this video is we're already 2 hours into this, and it's so much information to take in. It's just this is one of the longest podcasts, and it's great.
I have no problems keeping going because I have no end of just interesting things that have happened to me.
You gotta save it for your YouTube channel. People want to know these things.
It's time for Animaniacs, and we're zany to the max. So just sit back and relax. You'll laugh when you can laugh. We're Animaniacs. Come join the Warner Brothers and the Warner Sister Dot.
As much as people have talked about pop culture nostalgia has not worked very well in media or movies or TV shows or whatever. They've tried to bring back Strawberry Shortcake. Hasn't worked. They're bringing back Animaniacs. I know you're aware of that.
Yeah.
But Animaniacs was great for the time. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to work well now for this time. I don't think it's going to have the same appeal with the type of characters. I would say that to gauge if something's going to be popular to be brought back, is it popular now, even though it's not promoted? If all the kids in the world were sharing memes and GIFs of Animaniacs things all over the internet right now, yes, maybe it would be a good time to bring it back because it shows a lot of interest.
We do. I mean, like, I see plenty.
Animaniacs?
Yeah. Like, like, obviously a lot of the jokes don't work anymore because it's so much pop culture, but I think there's something somewhat exciting about seeing what Animaniacs would look like now.
Yeah, I guess if they...
I mean, go ahead, Pam.
I guess if they talk about stuff today, then it'll make sense. Like, because
I mean, with the Trump climate, with political humor and people being so attached to political humor now, especially, I mean, look at YouTube. Its main page is literally, it's half the time it's just politician talk. I can see Animaniacs taking that. Now, I don't know if it's aiming towards kids or if it's aiming towards a more teen audience, but I'd be fascinated if they went that route.
I just want to say that we usually end off these podcasts by talking about questions, and we do have a question that sort of pertains to that. Questions. If anybody has a question, be sure to leave your question in the YouTube comments of this video. And our first question is Greasy. Question. Hey, you filthy podcasters, do you feel that after Samurai Jack's success that there are any other cartoons that can be rebooted under a more adult format and would work as well as Jack did?
I think it just really depends on whether or not they're trying to go for the same demographic versus like aging it up.
Yeah.
Like if they're trying to capture both a previous generation and the current one, I think there's going to be a lot of missed signals because it's going to be very scattered in what they're trying to do. But like aging stuff up, people love edgy stuff, and that's, Samurai Jack's, all of a sudden there's blood, all this stuff. People got really excited about that. So I think depending on the product, probably.
Well, if you take this is an important thing that you have to consider when you think about bringing back anything from the past, is the format people are going to be watching it in.
Yeah.
How are they going to be seeing this? Because a lot of people aren't sitting watching their televisions anymore. They are watching Netflix, or they're watching it on YouTube, or they're watching it on other sites. And it has to be a place where people are actually going to be returning to, or at least those episodes will have to gather somewhere so people can bulk watch them.
Yeah.
Binge watch them like they do on Netflix. And that's an issue. And a lot of these new TV shows really aren't making money, which is another problem. I'm sure Samurai Jack, which I've seen the new shows, which are great, and I've seen people sharing bits and pieces and GIFs of them. But is it making any money? That's one of the problems, is a lot of people are making a lot of media right now, and they're not making money.
Yeah.
And big companies are very conscientious of that because they have to show a return on investment to their shareholders. And there are things that would be successful. I would say an interesting example of something that is the TV show Family Guy. The TV show Family Guy has been on for 2 decades. And of course, it was originally canceled. It was canceled in its first season and brought back on another network. And that appeals to an audience that's still watching television. That is really appealing to people that are about 40 to 55 years old. And they constantly make jokes on that show that really appeal to that target market. I was watching an old clip of it here, an old episode here at my studio while I was working. And there's a part where their car breaks down in Pennsylvania Dutch Amish country. And now they're stuck there for a few days. And Peter Griffin makes a joke. He looks at a barn and he says, "Oh, that's a great barn." And he looks at the screen and goes, "By Mennonites." Do you know what that joke means?
Nope.
Nobody does. They'd have to be my age or older to get the joke. Is that if you look up a TV commercial on YouTube, that's there was a men's cologne called Menon. It was Menon cologne. And their cologne ads ended by Menon. So they made antiperspirant by Menon. And those were probably out in the mid-'70s.
Yeah.
1970s. But Family Guy, most of the jokes that I see are really appealing to people that are my age. They're probably about 45, 55 years old in that age range. And it's working. That's an age range that's working, and they're getting advertisers for it. But you get something to appeal to a younger audience, it's where's it going to appear? How are you going to draw people to watch it on YouTube? YouTube had this grand idea that they would take $100 million invested in series for YouTube, and content creators could submit their ideas for a series, and they would actually allot them money to try to develop their series. and all the advertising revenue until it was paid back would go back to YouTube. Do you remember this program?
Vaguely, I think.
I do. It's the YouTube Collective. It's like why Kevin Smith had a YouTube channel, Frederator, the Geek and Sundry, all those bigger channels that had like one random celebrity attached to it, and almost all of them failed. None of them got near the projected score. Like Channel Frederator's Cartoon Hangover is technically a huge failure.
Yeah. So all those shows were huge failures. The problem that everyone, no matter what you talk about now for bringing a show back, I can tell you right now that 90% of everything will fail. 99% will fail. And the reason everything fails is the writing. The writer behind it is I mean, look how old I am. I'm so old. I mean, I knew Moses when he was in high school. I'm so old. But something that's been consistent is you're all aware of one-hit wonder songs.
Yes.
They're great. They're wonderful songs. These people came out with this one amazing song. Everyone loves their sound. They love the voices. But one song. Because that one song was well written.
Yeah.
It was the writing of the song. Here are the people set up in a studio. If they had a writer behind them with 12 great songs, they would have 12 more hits. But they don't have the writers. That's the problem with television. There are too few, or I say video entertainment now. There are too few good writers. And they're all in hot demand, and they're all tied up with major production type shows. And if somebody actually came down the pike that was a great writer out of the blue, whatever they did, whatever they turned their attention to would be amazing. Mm-hmm. It would be spectacular. It's just that there are so few writers. There's so many talented singers. There's so many talented actors. There's so many talented video makers. Mm-hmm. But there's so few writers. That's one thing they never concentrate on or never talk about on YouTube or anywhere else.
Yeah.
Is that if the writing sucks, the thing's going to suck no matter what.
I feel as though there are many, many channels out there all over the place that never, ever talk about writing at all. Mm-hmm. And it's such a shame.
Because it's in the background. Like, people care about the visual, the what's in the front line.
I think I could only name like channels that talk about the writing, like in one hand, like Saber Spark, your channel Pan, the Jim's Review channel. I'm starting to run out of people. I Hate Everything. Your Movie Sucks. Jeez, man, I just can't think of them all. Mm-hmm. You know,
I have always been fascinated by writing and writers. Mm-hmm. That's where the passion is, the love is, the hate. Every emotion is there in their hands.
You're right, Mike. That is such a very niche thing to be into.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and if you wanted to bring back another show like Animaniacs, there was a comic strip I wanted to bring back so bad that had been dormant for 20 years at that time, called Pogo. You ever hear of Pogo?
Wait, that sounds very familiar. Hang on. Pogo.
There was a comic strip called Pogo about a possum, and it was a political cartoon. The whole thing was very political. Mm-hmm. And it was by Walt Kelly. It was one of the greatest comic strips of all time. And when the artist died, they didn't continue the strip because they couldn't find anyone to write it. It's all in the writing. Mm-hmm. So I actually went through the effort to try to become the new artist of Pogo and bring it back. And I made 2 weeks worth of dailies. I did some Sunday pages. I did the writing, and I just couldn't do it. They brought the comic strip back without me, but I said I can't do it because everyone in the family that had any control over the rights to this character all had their own ideas. So I'd do this great writing. People say, well, I don't like that. You have to take that part out. That's too controversial. Oh no, you got to get a woman character in here because women are hot now. Oh, wait a second. Where's your African-American character? Because we need more African-Americans in this comic strip. Well, it's not that. It's just that it's not. I'm writing a story right now, and this is what fits the story. We have to keep the story coherent. We'll work in everything else as it goes along, but we have to have the story, the theme.
Basically, too many cooks in the kitchen.
Too many cooks, and a good writer has to be by themselves or two writers together that work really well together. But I see television programming or all those failed YouTube events. that had too many writers, too many cooks, too many people concerned about what people would think. And then you go see a great movie that came out in theaters, Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
The DC one. The writing on that was excellent. What excellent writing that was. There was a lot of sloppy moments in it because of the way it was produced.
Yeah.
But the writing was excellent. The understory was excellent. People love the movie because of the understory. The story is great.
Because if you look at a Hollywood movie, there's always like a list of like, this movie had like 6 writers, and it's just like each of them has a different vision, sort of.
Too many cooks, 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 too many cooks.
Well, I have to say that when I did my voiceovers, I was voicing over cartoons. That's a whole nother story. When I go public with that, I'm not going to go public until I have my scripts and my documentation to show I actually did the voices, because I wasn't credited on the TV shows, and some of the TV shows are such classics now. And if I'd actually, at the time I did this because it was fun. Yeah. Who would think that old stupid import cartoon shows would ever become anything? You know, I grew up in an era of things like Winky Dink and Clutch Cargo. Look that up, guys, on YouTube.
I know about Clutch Cargo, God.
Clutch Cargo is one of the most terrifying things ever.
I loved it as a child. It was that
scary.
moist mouth there stuck to a piece of cardboard.
Oh.
But I grew up with that. And I never thought any of that material would be classics, which they're not.
No.
But when I was doing the work I was doing, it was such a kick to do it. To get, wow, my God, I just got paid $600 for an afternoon's worth of work, talking like a robot.
Yeah.
And I had the best time doing it. And I, at the time, didn't think much of it. It was something I was near the studios. They liked me, and I did a whole bunch of fill-in voices. I was like the king of the extra voices they needed. Because people that were union people got paid extra to do extra voices in an episode. So if you were,
what show is this?
I don't want to say yet. I will publish the shows, and I will actually publish little 5-second clips out of them, like in a little small screen next to me, so it'll get picked up on Content ID.
Yeah.
I want people to see that voice I did with the contract in my script to show that I did that voice and that voice and that voice and that voice. Yeah. I did so many peripheral voices for characters in these old things. Look, when you look up in the movies, all the voices aren't credited because there's a lot of characters. It's the most boring thing to ever do in history. Okay, what it is you sit in a room, and it has like the egg crate walls, and you have characters that have moving mouths already projecting on a screen in front of you, and you have to match your voice somewhat close to it. So if the line doesn't work, they'll actually change the line a little bit. The scripts are already there. But you'll see on the scripts where I've crossed out a word because it just doesn't look right in the spot. Because let's say if you said the word Lamborghini, it looks like you're saying 3 words, and their mouth only moves once. So you put in car because a writer didn't take into account, what the voice was enough. Let me do a few voices for you just so you can marvel. Now remember, we would sit in a room and we would record like, okay, do it again, but add the word now. Okay, do it again, but stick to the script, because if you went off script, they would yell at you.
Okay, so just to clarify, you yourself did a good performance, but it was messed up in editing.
No. We had to do many, many, many takes. It's like what they did with Disney's Aladdin. Yeah. When every time they did anything, it was 100 takes for one line, and I was doing like maybe 10 to 15 takes for a line. Here, want to hear some voices?
I guess so.
Of course.
We have traveled across the universe in search of this flea of a person to crush. No longer will you be a threat to the Decepticons.
You're a
And I'm not saying what I was. Not yet. I was a fill-in voice where I filled in for characters that would show up that weren't normal characters, because it happened all the time in those old shows, remember?
Yeah, like a one-shot character.
Like, say, an army would come down.
Lord, we have tracked down this.
But I did all kinds of strange voices. Yes, we have saved the ruby from the crashed ship.
It will not come into your possession until you pay our ransom.
I did all kinds of stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. But a lot of it was more robot-y twang. So think about it now, how a lot of those Japanese things had voiceover animations that sort of sounded like that. Voiceovers. Yeah. I'm not credited, but I'm going to credit myself. My contracts say that
You got to do it, yeah.
I have non-disclosure contracts that say I'll never tell anyone. Hey, it's been 20 years. Let them sue me.
Wow, damn, that sucks. God, it's kind of like a...
I don't care.
Yeah, it's like Atari, how they said like you couldn't credit yourself, and someone programmed an Easter egg where in this game called Adventure, where you pick up a key and go to this direction, and you find the credits as an Easter egg because Atari didn't want people crediting themselves.
Yeah, but back in the day, I did a lot of stuff like that. I did a lot, and I'm gonna come forward with it and show some people.
Do it.
To them, I was just a way to save money and save problems with union people.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. They really wanted me to keep doing it, but I just didn't have the time at the time because I was busy with all the other stuff I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too difficult to keep working and reaching for more ways to torture them.
God,
it was fun. I was really good at it.
I'm sorry to say this, but I'm getting really tired. So it's like we recorded like almost 3 hours, I believe.
Oh, geez, you barely got anything.
God, this is all amazing. Do you want to answer like one final question and we can wrap this up? At Peggy, why now? Why? I don't know. What are some of your favorite franchises that you have designed merch for?
Oh my God, this is gonna sound really crazy. I was a very good artist of the Disney princess characters in especially the 90s.
Yeah.
Because most people doing the artwork sucked at the time. It was really poor. I would say one of the errors is they would either make them too sexy. They're supposed to be like 15 or 16.
Uh-oh.
And then you can't make them sexy and mature like women, which a lot of people did at the time. And you can't make them look too kiddish or ugly, because most of it was just done ugly. Mm-hmm. That's why in one of the Pez Dispenser videos, I just comment how poor the sculpting is, how poor the artwork is. And I remember at the time two things. At the time when I was doing that and I was seeing Disney licensing people, can't you do a program of just Disney princesses? I think it'd be really cute. No, we don't like mixing up the licensed properties because we make money because we license Cinderella, we license Belle from Beauty and the Beast, we license Snow White from the Seven Dwarfs. Why would we group them into one big program and lose all that additional revenue?
Mm-hmm.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, like people love crossovers.
Yeah, I thought it would be really great. And the other thing is I've always liked Tinkerbell because she's always like a bathing beauty. Mm-hmm. I like drawing. It's fun to draw girls that are pretty. I always sort of enjoy doing that. Mm-hmm. I haven't done much of it lately. If you look on my Instagram, you'll see I did Betty Boop, Roger Rabbit, and stuff like that.
Yeah. I
like doing those properties, but I didn't do a lot of it at the time, mostly because they didn't group the properties together like that at the time. And I particularly liked doing artwork for the Aladdin movie, even though the movie had a lot of problems and it wasn't the best Disney movie. Mm-hmm. I really liked drawing and painting Genie and Aladdin. I thought that they were great characters together and they worked well together. I'd say DuckTales is probably my number one favorite.
Oh, yeah.
At the time when DuckTales first came out.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved drawing Uncle Scrooge McDuck because I grew up reading those comic books.
Yeah.
Uncle Scrooge, from Western Publishing, which was first Dell Comics and it was Gold Key Comics. And I devoured those as a child. I was heartbroken when they raised the price from 12 cents to 15 cents. I thought I was getting robbed on those comics. I'd say the reason I liked drawing Uncle Scrooge so much at the time is you could draw Uncle Scrooge angry. Mm-hmm. Uncle Scrooge had a range of emotions.
Yeah.
At the time, Disney didn't do a lot of range of emotions. Mickey Mouse at that time period was always drawn happy. Think of any licensed product from Mickey. He's always standing there smiling.
Except for Kingdom Hearts, if you know that game.
Yeah, but that came much later. That was different.
Yeah. They'll pay for this.
Talk about how brilliant that was. Summon Bambi,
Yeah.
What's nice about Uncle Scrooge is when you make him happy or you make him angry, his whole body shows that he's angry.
Yeah.
His whole body shows that he's happy. Mm-hmm. You could take his head off and you could look at the body and know exactly what his facial expression will look like.
Mm-hmm. His posing.
Whereas a lot of characters aren't like that. They reacted to things. Mm-hmm. Probably the girl Moana shows that a lot in that movie. She seemed to have a lot of body language that matched her facial expressions. And a lot of Disney movies lately seem to have toned that way back, which is kind of sad. Mm-hmm. A lot of people now in animation or in children's books call it ham acting, overacting. Like William Shatner used to overact all of his hands, his arms, his face.
Yeah.
He would just go for that emotion.
And I'm gonna be high. As a kite by then.
But we remember him because of that.
Yeah.
And people liked it. They really did like it. And if you're drawing a cartoon character or a cartoon show, it should have that. Why are you going to not do it if it works?
One thing I saw, like, there's a DC cartoon called Teen Titans, and there's this one gloomy character called Raven who's always angry and never smiles. But I noticed in a lot of the products and like the DVD cases, like she's always like flying in the air and just with a smile, just like, yeah. And it's like, that is not that character.
I hate that. I know exactly what you're saying. In the movie, which one was it? One of those Marvel movies, they all sort of blend in for me. That Negasonic teenage warhead girl.
From Deadpool, yeah.
Who's always supposed to be sort of dour and, and sad and unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
But I like when Tony Stark sort of makes fun of her. I think it's pretty sure it was Tony Stark.
Deadpool.
That said, yeah. Deadpool. I'm sorry, it was Deadpool. What am I thinking? Jeez.
I mean, what
the
were
problem
you
with me and the Marvel
thinking?
movies.
I mean, really?
The Marvel movies to me are just one big, wonderful blur.
They're standardized.
Yeah, they all just fit together like big puzzle pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you lose what scene was in what movie because they all seem to be interchangeable scenes because it's all the same universe with the same characters. Sometimes you sort of mix them up in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I like what they did with her in that movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny. Got me in a box here, whatever she says to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Deadpool was probably one of the best movies to be released in the past 15 years. Not that it was maybe the best writing or the best movie overall, but it changed a lot of ways people think about how to write a movie.
I appreciate how cheap the movie was because they used like the same 3 sets and they saved a ton of money and it was this big success. I guess this is the end of the podcast. But I'm Pan Pizza. Who are you people?
I'm Nolan.
I'm Izzy.
Mike,
hello?
Say that I'm Mike Mozart, We'll just say, because we say our names when we go off.
Well, you're very soft. You sound very soft on the phone. It's almost impossible to hear what you were saying.
But yeah, just say, say I'm Mike Mozart, and we're just gonna. We usually say our names when we sign off.
Okay, go ahead. Go do it again. Sorry.
It's like I'm Pan Pizza. Who are you people?
I'm Nolan
I'm Mike Mozart.
Mike Mozart's there.
There's too much now.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye. We recorded almost 3 hours.
I am Mike Mozart. You do not question this information.